Tell you what, you kick off, I'll sit here.
You take a seat. You take a round of applause before we've said a word. Wait till you see the video at the end and then you'll definitely be up on your feet. Okay, click it. Right, so yeah, I'm Owen McLellan. I'm Managing Director of Company Shop. My background is in really the food supply chain. So prior to joining, I spent 10 years at a Big Four supermarket. So structure today, we'll talk a bit about the food economy and about waste within that. And then we'll have a panel discussion with some experts such as Gary, and you guys will have a chance for some Q&A within that. Bit about us. So Michael talked about Company Shop at the start. So who are we? Well, we are the industry solution to food waste. We work with partners right across FMCG, and we work to take surplus products and redistribute them before they go to waste. So, you know, surplus happens for loads of reasons. Forecasting, you know, supermarkets won't have been expecting this weather when they placed their orders 2 months ago. It could just be labelling issues. We get loads of products that are set for a European market but have ended up in the UK. It could be stuff that's damaged or just got the wrong weight on it, whatever. Loads of reasons. And we basically take that and we reprocess it and we redistribute it. And how do we redistribute it? So we do it in two ways. So through Company Shop, which is basically a supermarket group. So we've got 14 supermarkets across the country from Southampton to Scotland, and we sell every major food retailer's brand through those supermarkets, and because it's surplus, we sell it quite cheap. You have to be a member to shop there, and there's some conditions around that. But what that does is means we have complete traceability on all our products, and therefore we've got brand integrity. So everybody from Tesco to M&S to Coke, they all trust us. The other side, which Gary's going to talk about a bit later, is Community Shop, which is also sort of across the country. We've got 10 locations, and they are more than just a shop. So they are a convenience store. Everyone's got a kitchen and everyone's got a hub, and they do some fantastic stuff in disadvantaged communities, and we'll play a video and Gary will talk about that later. So the food market, well, it's big, it's pretty big, 250 billion, and it's growing pretty much consistently. It's been at about 3.5% growth since 2005. Bit of a blip through COVID, but sort of recovering again after that. So that's interesting, but actually the dynamics within the market are changing. So if you go back to 2005, the way we shop is different. So gone are the days of you go down to the supermarket on a Friday or a Saturday or a Sunday, and instead most of us go 2, 3, 4 times a week, and we spend less when we go, but we go more frequently. And when we go, we expect the shelves to be full. So that is putting constant pressure on the food supply chain. And food has a short shelf life, so you can't keep it, you can't store it, so you're constantly battling the supply chain to do that. And what that means is that waste can occur. Like I said, supermarkets won't have been forecasting this. Your typical bank holiday weekend when supermarkets are rammed full of burgers and it rains, that happens every bank holiday. And where do those burgers go? Well, some supermarkets can be smart and turn that into mints, great, but quite a lot of it will just get marked down or end up in the bin. So we can do something about that. And size does matter. So when you're talking about 250 billion, supermarkets love talking about waste as a percent of sales. Well, every 0.1% of sales is 250 million quid. So it is a big number if we can get hold of that. Where does our food come from? Well, actually, 58% of it comes from within the UK. That's down from about 75% in the 70s. If you've seen what shelves look like on tomatoes, you'll see why it's 58 and not 100. And that does happen. We don't have the climate. When it snows in March, we can't grow some of that veg ourselves. So we end up importing that. Loads of reasons why that's the right thing to do, and I'm not going to get into that. But what it has stimulated, what's happened in the last few weeks, is that conversation around should we be producing more food ourselves in the UK? Maybe. But actually, even within the UK, 3 million tonnes of food is wasted at farms every year. So you get lost in those numbers, but that's 3 billion kilograms. So how many meals is that? That's quite a lot. And that's what we're already producing and wasting within the UK. Food inflation, this is not going to be a surprise. So it's nearly 17% food inflation. I've never known anything like it. So 5% a year ago, we're 3 times that. And that 5% is something I haven't seen before in my decade in supermarkets. Clive, who's here, might have seen something back in the day or might have better information, but that alone was quite unique to me. And where we are now is just crazy. It's not unique to the UK. Global food prices are up about 14%, or a bit more than that, but it's a global problem. But actually, when you drill into it, it's even more of a problem for low-income households. So within that, the essentials are being hit hardest. So milk's up 40%, pasta, butter, both up 29%, bread's up 21%. So if you're struggling and you're making active choices about heating and eating, when those kind of inflation numbers hit you, what do you do and where do you go? And we're kind of seeing that in community shop, which Gary will talk about. And what it really results in is lower consumption. And you can tell that's happening because supermarkets are typically reporting single-digit growth at the moment. But if inflation's at 17% and they're there at single-digit, then the gap has to be that people are eating less. And this is why. So this bottom line, that's total households, the proportion of income we spend on food. And for the average, it's 14%. And for the poorest, it's pretty much a fifth of their income goes on food. And then you've seen what's happening in energy prices and fuel, and there's pressure everywhere. So 60% of low-income households have cut back on food. That's 40% across the country in total. That graph is from the Trussell Trust, and that shows what's happening in food banks. So 2.5 times more usage in the Trussell Trust in the last 5 years. And they've seen 320,000 new members try them out in the last 12 months. So it is a real problem. And given the size of the food market, given the size of waste that's happening, like I said, just those 3 million tonnes just at farm before you even get into what's at manufacturing, at distribution, at supermarkets, at home, then we have an obligation to do something about food waste. And that's not just me saying that, the environment we're in is going to dictate that. So politically, the UN, one of their sustainable goals is to halve food waste by 2030. And in the UK, within the next 12 months, we are pretty much expecting that the government is going to introduce mandatory food waste reporting. So every company is going to have to report how much they're wasting food. Financially, it's a no-brainer. If we can redistribute edible food, people can buy it cheaper and business gets a return. So Company Shop, we've paid, in the last 12 months, we've paid back £39 million into industry for stuff that they would have put in the bin ultimately. So it's just £39 million they're getting. That's £200 million since we've started. And we're selling that food to members at typically a 40 to a 50% discount. So company gets something, customers get something. Environmentally, the case is pretty clear. So 1/3 of all food grown around the world is wasted. And this is my favourite, but a frightening stat. If food waste was a country, it'd be the biggest CO2 producer behind US and China. And you know how big they are. So bigger than India, bigger than Brazil. It's that kind of problem. And then socially, all of us as consumers, we're not going to let that happen, and we're not letting that happen, and we're hearing that, and big business is hearing that and are trying to do something about it. So what can we do? Michael talked about food hierarchy, the waste hierarchy. So there is a food waste hierarchy, and Helen and RAP came up with this, and the government endorse it. So before food gets to being incinerated, there's a whole range of things that we can do to intervene to stop that. And Biffa and Company Shop are quite unique because we play pretty much all the way across that. In a perfect world, we would just produce what we eat. So we might reduce production, or we might eat everything and the supply chains might all work. but we're not in a perfect world. So the next best thing we can do is redistribute and redistribute to people before we send it anywhere else. And that's where we come in. The good news is redistribution is growing. So this is the amount of tonnage that's being redistributed in the UK up to 2021. And you can see 25% growth rate over the last few years. But it's still only 100,000 tonnes, and Company Shop are over a third of that. So we're the biggest player as part of that. But when there's 3 million tonnes just at Farm Gate, you can see that actually we're just scratching the surface on all of that. So what do we do with it? So when we get surplus product, as I said, we flow it through 2 channels. We sell it to members at a discount, and we flow it through Community Shop. And I could sit here and explain that, but actually this video does it much better than I could do.
Let us tell you a story of big impact.
In a challenging year,
It's a story of hope.
A story that's built on partnership and working together with a common goal.
It starts with a vision to create a world where no surplus product goes to waste.
But it goes so much further than that.
It's about people who have helped.
And have been helped.
Thousands of people who have
Donated.
Handled.
Driven. Stacked. Organised.
Bought. Sorted.
Washed. Labelled. Scrutinised.
Negotiated.
Smiled.
trained,
Consumed.
Taught.
Invested.
Listened.
Protected.
Cared.
All of which have added up to some big numbers. And when we say big, we mean big.
Let's start with this one.
100 million. That's how much members have saved on shopping.
Helping families all over the UK.
Families like mine.
And mine.
And mine.
Do more with their money and spend it on the moments that matter.
We, in partnership with retailers and manufacturers,
Like us. And us.
And us.
Have stopped everything from bagels to baby wipes going to waste.
Making sure it goes to people's homes as originally intended.
But it's not just about getting it from A to B.
It's about what we do with it when we get it.
3.1 million bottles washed.
80 million products relabelled.
A staggering 109 million items saved.
Providing huge benefits to businesses, people and the planet.
In the last 10 years, we have paid back around 200 million to our industry partners, 39 million this year alone.
This is money that would have been lost, but instead is being reinvested into the industry.
And while the financial impact here is large, it goes deeper than that.
Right to the heart of communities across the UK.
This year, through Community Shop, we've supported more than 28,000 households to access affordable food.
Helping fill breakfast bowls, lunch boxes and fridges with foods we need to stay happy and healthy.
And 92% of members felt their quality of life had improved.
But Community Shop has always been about more than just food. And this year, 46,000 people have engaged with unique personal development programs, building skills and confidence to become the best version of themselves.
And while helping people and supporting business is the right thing, it's futile if we don't also take steps to protect our planet too.
Waste poses a threat which we simply cannot ignore.
And we're completely committed to reducing the effect it has on the environment.
This year, our impact has been bigger than ever.
With over 41,000 tonnes of food saved from waste.
That's the equivalent of almost 28,000 cars off the road.
2.1 million tree seedlings grown for 10 years.
44 million cubic metres of water saved.
Enough to fill 17,000 Olympic swimming pools.
So when we look back,
we're proud to say
we've achieved all this.
Together.
Together.
We face another year of challenges.
Let's keep doing more.
Let's keep the story going.
All we need is your surplus.
probably does deserve a round of applause more than I do. So, okay, over to Gary now, who's going to talk a bit about Community Shop.
Owen, thanks very much. I've seen quite a bit of it on there, and I was really struck when Owen was talking and Michael earlier. My name's Gary, and I'm the executive chairman at Community Shop. I have spent 30 years of my life in a sector that's pretty much not to do with anything that we're talking about here. So I was the chief executive of a homeless charity, went to work for the government, looking at resolving homelessness, spent a lot of years in social enterprise. And 10 years ago, Company Shop Group had the vision to ask a simple question, which is, we're delivering a great financial return to the industry, money that would be lost, particularly to manufacturing supply chain. We're delivering an impressive environmental return. How can we maximise our social return, leveraging all that we've done for 40 years to make that happen? And I think the thing that really struck me as being particularly unique, as well as the view, is that we're a not-for-profit business within the Company Shop Group, which is part of the Biffa Group. So every single day, in the last year, we've got 10 stores. We opened our 11th. In 3 weeks, we opened our 12th in July. This last year, we served 28,168 families through those stores. And we've sold tins of beans and baby wipes and bagels and fresh fruit and veg and all that kind of stuff. And we've made a little bit of profit off those retail sales and spent every single penny of that reinvested back in those communities. And therefore, our shared vision, I think, is a remarkable shared vision, because part of what I think we've done together is brought together multiple sectors with huge different diverse talents to deliver returns and results for people, planet and profit. And that's quite a unique collaboration across that. So Community Shop is our social enterprise bit. We're a social supermarket. That means that, as Owen said earlier on, we've got in our 10 locations a convenience store, 800 to 900 product lines, selling an average basket of goods at 30% of the retail price, which means that those 28,168 families have saved £212 a month on their shopping bill. That's a really significant impact. That's the kind of significant impact that when you open a store and your tills don't work and you're running around like mad trying to make sure that everything's kind of holding together, you've got queues of customers who are in tears at the till because they can see that they're saving 212 quid a month on the shopping bill, because immediately that makes a difference. Because we've got 1.6 million families using our food bank network because they've got no money to spend at all. But we've also got, because of the stuff that Owen shared with us about food inflation, we've got 7.3 million families, conservatively estimated, skipping at least one meal a week to make sure that we can still put food on the table. So for those families, that makes a huge difference. And in each store, and in each community shop, as well as that store, which provides an immediate and tangible impact for all those families, we've also got a community kitchen and a community hub. Community hub is a learning and development space where we offer 11 unique programs to support people to ask the question, what's life like now? What do I want life to be like in 12 months, and how do I get there? So in the last year, over 26,000 people have engaged with those mentoring programs, and they've made a real difference. Just short of 2,000 people have gone back into higher education or work. But I think as significantly, 96% of our members feel an increased sense of community. Which kind of, if you live where I live, the sense of community means the lady at number one, who's part of the neighbourhood watch team, who occasionally emails me and tells me that somebody in a hoodie was seen in the shopping centre 3 days before. But in the most deprived communities of the UK, which is where we exclusively operate, that sense of community is not just a political watchword, but it's the thing that is your first line of defence when you're really cold and you're really lonely, because those two things kill. So that makes a real difference in those communities. And then we've got our community kitchen, where well over 20,000 people have got involved in our 5 different cookery programs as part of the cookery school, and eat breakfast and lunch 6 days a week because it's £1. And because every child eats free in every community shop every single day of the year, not just in holiday times. So I think when we put those 3 elements together, a store, a hub and a kitchen, we're able to demonstrate, I think, over the last 9 years that although we're not bringing the entire solution around food security to those communities, but we are able to provide a laser focus on those communities that need that help most but can afford it least, in a way that doesn't build dependency and doesn't just give a handout, but gives a real hand up, which enables vibrant communities to do the things that they want to do for themselves. Because I think the reason that 52% of our members come and go within the first year is not because we're crap retailers or unkind people, because we're actually really very good at those 2 things. It's because the vast majority of people who come to community shop don't want to be locked into a subsidised model of food aid for any longer than is absolutely necessary. People want to move on and move up. And in order to do that, you need to do more than just food. You need to do all the other stuff that creates a breathing space for people to stabilise themselves and creates an entire mentoring and coaching programme that means that people can unlock their potential and move on into successful lives and vibrant communities, which is what they want. So I think we're hugely proud to play a small part in contributing to the overall picture of this circular economy, where in a very real sense, our partners and our supporters across the UK dump into the top of that funnel all the stuff that they're finding tricky to work out a solution for, and somewhere in that funnel, tens of thousands of people's lives are transformed in the process. That seems a reasonably good solution in the ambitious journey towards a circular economy that we've got.